Currently, there are more than 8 billion people in the world. Most of them live within human civilization, but some, especially native tribes, avoid contact with the outside world. Throughout history, some explorers and curious individuals have come across these tribes, which strongly disliked the exposure and reacted violently. Although rare, there are some extremely dangerous tribes that you should never approach if you want to keep your life intact. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Just from the name alone, this tribe already has a threatening tone. Called the Warrior Skeletons tribe, they got this name because of the way they paint themselves, turning into real living skeletons. But if only that were the only characteristic that makes them a scary tribe. The traditions of this tribe, also known as the Chimu tribe, remain largely unknown to specialists, ever since the first contact with civilization in 1934, which was followed by Christian missions and coffee plantations, causing much of the tribe's history and culture to be lost. This tribe, from Papua New Guinea, uses a frightening black and white body paint during rituals, where, by dancing, they become skeletons. This paint is used as a way to intimidate their enemies, showing that they possess paranormal powers to control the dead. So, the paint is scary for a reason of war and psychological control. After finding out the truth, it is impossible to be sure whether this tribe became even more terrifying due to their motivation behind the paintings, or if they became just a bit less scary. Either way, it is better to be careful not only with their paintings, but also with their spears. Here in the Amazon region of Brazil, there is a mysterious and dangerous indigenous tribe that lives without contact with the outside world. They are called non-contacted because they lack an official name. This tribe avoids contact with strangers due to bad encounters in the past and the destruction of their home in the forest. The non-contacted people of Acre, Brazil, for example, are probably survivors of difficult times during the rubber boom, when many indigenous people were enslaved. They prefer to stay away from other people and have already shot arrows at helicopters and airplanes that approach their tribe. These indigenous people are dangerous because they attack without warning anyone or anything that feels strange to them, like drones or helicopters. To make matters worse, they use huge bows and arrows, some measuring over 4 meters, to shoot at strangers. Even with modernity around them, they chose to live as their ancestors did, by hunting and farming. The lives of these tribes are threatened by the invasion of their lands through the construction of dams and roads. Some are already leaving their territory because of the noise and pollution from these projects. They are vulnerable to diseases brought by outsiders and need protection before they vanish forever. But it is hard to protect them because no one can get close without being shot by an arrow. In New Guinea, a region of Indonesia, there is a very dangerous cannibal tribe known as the Asmat people. The territory where they live includes mangroves, swamps, and lowland rainforests, creating an isolated environment that shaped the culture and life of these indigenous people. A striking feature of the Asmat is their wood carving art, valued by collectors worldwide. However, beyond the art, the Asmat tribe is known for its scary and dangerous past. Until the mid-20th century, the Asmat were famous headhunters and cannibals, practices that continued until the intervention of Christian missionaries in the 1950s. It was believed that an adult's death, even by illness, was caused by an enemy, and vengeance was a crucial part of appeasing the ancestors. Raids to obtain heads were fundamental to rituals that marked the boy's transition into adulthood. Furthermore, cannibalism was an important part of these rituals, maintaining an endless cycle of revenge. These terrifying practices caused the Asmat to remain virtually untouched by foreigners until the 20th century, when religious missions began to influence the region. Until the mid-1950s, their remote and difficult location kept them isolated. It was only with the arrival of Catholic missionaries that efforts were made to suppress cannibalism and headhunting among these tribes. In 1961, it is believed that Michael Rockefeller, a famous member of the Rockefeller family, was killed during an expedition to collect art from the Asmat people. Nowadays, this tribe still maintains many of its cultural traditions, including cannibalism, although they are increasingly integrated with the outside world. Even though they live quite isolated and away from the modern world, the Korowai people became famous over time, appearing in various headlines linking their name to cannibalism and witchcraft. In a remote area of the Indonesian rainforest, the Korowai build their houses between 8 and 15 meters above the ground, sometimes on trees or on tall stilts. The reason for this is the belief that evil spirits remain only on the ground, so building high up keeps the family safe. It also offers great protection from animals, many insects, and even human intruders. This practice ended up giving the Korowai the nickname of tree people because they live in high places. They are a religious people, and their beliefs include reincarnation, respect for the ancestors, and the idea that some individuals possess magical abilities, being able to influence luck and detect black magic. This element of their culture is probably the origin of the accusations of cannibalism and witchcraft. In the past, maybe they really did practice cannibalism, but nowadays, most problems are resolved in a peaceful manner. The Mursi tribe, or Mun as they call themselves, is a tribe living in Ethiopia. They reside primarily in the Debub-Omo zone, within the southern nations region near the border with South Sudan. According to a survey in 2007, there were about 11,500 Mursi. The Mursi live in one of the most isolated regions of the country, surrounded by mountains between the Omo River and the Mago River. This remote location contributes to the dangerous aspects of their culture. Traditionally, the Mursi are known for practices such as women wearing lip plates, scarification, and other extreme rituals that cannot be mentioned here on YouTube. The Mursi religion is mostly animist, believing in a higher power called Tumwi, which usually manifests in the sky. The priest, or Komoru, plays an important role in the village, performing public rituals to bring rain, protect against illnesses, and defend the community from attacks. The Mursi also face external dangers. In recent years, the construction of the Jibe 3 hydroelectric dam, completed in October of 2015, threatened to alter the Omo River's flooding cycles, on which thousands of indigenous people depend. Additionally, the creation of irrigation projects by the Ethiopian government displaced several tribes, including the Mursi, from their traditional lands. The Mashco Piro tribe is an uncontacted Peruvian tribe, living in the most remote areas of the Amazon River. The tribe consists of nomadic indigenous people who are hunters and gatherers. They avoid contact with non-native individuals as much as possible, but it is not surprising that they chose to live that way, since in the past they suffered a lot of exploitation from non-natives. Even simple contact transmitted many diseases, with terrible consequences for the entire tribe. Today, the Mashco Piro are known for being very reserved, trying their best to remain unseen. Despite their efforts to hide, sometimes the Mashco Piro are spotted and even photographed by curious people who want to meddle in tribal life. This does not always end well. In 2012, there was a famous case of a photographer who was found dead with an arrow in his chest. He was part of an exploration group that ended up getting too close to this tribe. The sentinelese tribe, which inhabits North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean, is one of the most isolated populations on the planet. They reject any contact with the outside world and may have inhabited their island for over 55,000 years. Due to their complete isolation, the sentinelese are extremely territorial, with a history of violence against anyone who tries to invade their space. Understanding the sentinelese tribe is difficult, because any attempt at approaching them is met with violence. However, observations have been made from boats kept at a safe distance to avoid their arrows. In 1880, a British expedition landed on the island and found abandoned villages and houses, indicating that the tribe had hidden upon seeing the invading force. The expedition captured an elderly couple and some children, and due to a lack of immunity, the sentinelese became ill and the older ones died. The children were returned to the island, but no one knows how many lethal diseases were introduced. During the 1970s and 1980s, several attempts at communication were made, with gifts left on the beaches. Most of these gifts were rejected and buried by the tribe. More recently, anthropologists concluded that the best thing to do is leave the sentinelese tribe alone and avoid any type of contact. The Suri tribe, also known as the Surma tribe from Ethiopia, might have the strangest criterion to determine the value of men and women before marriage. Men need to fight to show their worth, armed with a wooden stick almost 2 meters long. The long stick is held at the base, and the men in the ritual must strike their opponent with the stick as many times as possible until he falls. When the opponent falls to the ground, he is eliminated. The winner of the tournament is carried on a platform to a group of girls in Siri or Thumb, and then he can choose which one he will marry. Thus, the young men are selected for their skills in stick fighting, and the women for the size of their lip plates. The lower lips of the women are pierced and, over the course of a year, slowly stretched with ever larger plates. The bigger the hole in the lips, the more attractive the woman of this tribe becomes. The Yanomami tribe, also known as Yanomami or Yanomami, lives in a remote rainforest region in southern Venezuela, in the Orinoco River Basin, and in the northernmost area of the Amazon Basin in the far north of Brazil. These people live in small villages, which change location whenever new areas for agriculture are needed. They practice a type of shifting cultivation known as slash-and-burn agriculture. As the name suggests, they burn parts of the forest to clear space for planting. Even though it may seem brutal, this technique makes more sense than it appears, because the ash provides some fertilization to the soil, and weeds are practically eliminated from the area. Though it may look aggressive, this practice has been going on for thousands of years and does not impact the environment the same way modern pesticides do in industrial agriculture. However, fire can often be unpredictable, causing terrible wildfires. That is what makes this one of the most dangerous tribes in the world. Aside from subsistence farming, the Yanomami also hunt deer, monkeys, armadillos, birds, and other animals, another aspect that might give the tribe its reputation for being frightening and hostile. The Palawan tribe is an indigenous people who inhabit Palawan Island in the Philippines. They are among the original inhabitants of Palawan and are considered the last cave dwellers, living in caves inside mountains and even dormant volcanoes. Traditionally, members of the Palawan tribe combine agriculture, hunting, and gathering to meet their needs. The social structure of the Palawan revolves around small family units, and their communities are relatively small in size. The Palawan people have a distinct language, which is part of a subgroup of the vast Austronesian language family, and like many indigenous languages, it faces challenges in preservation and transmission to younger generations. Over the years, the tribe has faced many challenges related to land rights, meaning members of the tribe are being forced to abandon their lifestyles because their lands are being stolen. Several organizations and government initiatives promise to improve the conditions of the Palawan, but in general, these initiatives end up causing more harm than good. It is important to note that even though many indigenous cultures seem strange to us, they need to be preserved and respected, especially this tribe, which holds such a unique custom, already extinct among the rest of humankind. In Ethiopia, the Hamar are a group of indigenous tribes residing in the southwestern region of the country, in the Omo Valley. One of the most striking aspects of their culture is the bodily decorations and ornaments. They often use clay and animal fat to create designs on their skin, complemented by handmade jewelry and colorful clothes, giving them a stunning appearance. The Hamar sustain themselves through agriculture and cattle herding. Cattle hold significant cultural and economic value, with large herds being a symbol of wealth and prestige within the community. The social organization of the Hamar is mainly based on clans, each with its own territory and livestock. One of the Hamar's most famous rituals is the bull jumping ceremony, known as a kuli. This coming-of-age rite for young Hamar men symbolizes their transition into adult life, but it is quite dangerous. During the ceremony, the young men must run across the backs of several bulls lined up without falling. If they manage to do it, they are finally recognized as adult men in the community. Although this ritual is very dangerous and might seem strange to us, it is an important part of the culture of this tribe, which must be respected. However, remember that you should not try to imitate them, as they possess generations of accumulated knowledge to avoid the worst accidents. The Ayoréode live in a region known as the Gran Chaco, which spans from Paraguay to Bolivia. Traditionally, these peoples were nomadic, but this way of life was almost entirely eradicated by missionaries in the 20th century. Nowadays, most of the tribe's remaining members are more or less sedentary, living in villages, though some remain uncontacted. Today, the Ayoréode are at risk due to large-scale deforestation and the loss of territory in the region. There are laws to protect indigenous peoples from contact with outsiders, aiming to prevent the transmission of diseases, since they do not have the same resistance to viruses and bacteria as non-natives. There are many bizarre stories about the Ayoréode tribe, but in fact, most of them appear to be rumors without any real basis. There is no proof that they are a dangerous tribe, but since some of these indigenous people remain uncontacted, it is better to be safe than sorry. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.